Happy Friday and happy Fridays with Fidelman. I'm Cheryl Fidelman, the Conscious Codependent Coach and the founder of the Conscious Codependent Collective. Today's topic on Fridays with Fidelman is eternal contracts. So, in a moment, I'm going to tell you what I mean by eternal contracts. It's sort of the three ways I would say to identify an eternal contract. And I talk about eternal contracts in my work because I think that they consciously and or unconsciously shape our lives. They shape the direction of our life. We spend time on them every day, so they take up mental, emotional, and or spiritual energy almost every day. And they're some of them we notice, and some of them we actually don't notice at all. Please subscribe to my channel. I'm revving up my video output so you'll get all of my free content when it comes to trauma healing, codependence recovery, and most things existential. So when it comes to eternal contracts, I would say that codependence is a major eternal contract. That if we look at it like, okay, first let me tell you the three parts of an eternal contract, like how you can identify an eternal contract in your life. So number one, it takes up energy. Like I said earlier, it takes up psychological, spiritual, emotional energy. It's an unending commitment. So there's no end, we don't see an end to it. So an eternal contract could be a marriage. It could be a career, right? Something that you are committed to for life, or at least for most of your life. And it's something that you put time towards growing and expanding and building. And there's also some planning that happens. It's something that you don't actually see yourself letting go of, or you're not planning to let go of it. You're planning for it to actually join you in your life for all or most of the rest of your life. And its presence in your life is getting more and more apparent, right? So these things that we are committed to for life, they're growing. They're taking up more space in our life. Our relationship to them is getting stronger. While we have some things that we may have consciously made an agreement to, like marriage, or like having a pet, or buying a home, or getting a job, where we say, okay, I'm consciously making this agreement, I'm entering into this contract, and the contract is going to last, a really long time. I actually don't see myself ending the contract anytime soon. Now, I'm going to say that codependence is an eternal contract. Living a lesser version of ourselves can be an eternal contract, unless you see some end in sight. If living a mediocre version of yourself, or being in a relationship where you are trapped most of the time in the want to be wanted, the need to be needed, and or the need to prove yourself, which are my three tenets of codependence. If you have the experience where you don't feel, completely self-expressed and free to live who you were designed to live, the life that you were designed to live, that might be an eternal contract. You may not see any end in sight. It may be taking up even more space, right? The level of dysfunction in your life may be becoming a little less subtle and more apparent. Or maybe the dysfunction in your relationship or at your job is becoming more and more apparent. It's growing, it's getting worse. Or you've swept it under the rug, and sometimes when it comes, it shows its face, right? Like you're in a relationship and you're ignoring the issues, and then when they show their face, they're worse than they were than before you shoved them under the rug. So it's like the pressure is expanding. What in your life do you think you have an eternal contract to that you actually don't want that contract? You actually don't want it to last the rest of your life. whether it's codependence, whether it's having a particular codependent narcissistic dynamic in your life, whether it's feeling like you're not really working to your optimal level, or you're living where you live and you're not totally into where you live, or there's some train of thought that you keep happening, that keeps happening, like some low level anxiety in your life that is really, really running the show. Mainly who I work with are analyzers and achievers who spend most of their life above their neck analyzing and analyzing and analyzing, and that works for them in many areas of their life, so they can, decently and effectively achieve in certain areas of their life. In other areas of their life, the analyzing is keeping them disconnected. It's keeping them not being able to manage or incorporate their emotions into their life and express their actual wants and desires in a healthy way, and express their anger in a healthy way. So that could be an eternal contract as well. Like if you're somebody who has a very strong relationship to not being able to manage or express or feel your emotions, and that relationship to not being able to manage your emotions is getting stronger, and it doesn't seem like there's any end in sight. Or if there's some level of procrastination. I used to be a major procrastinator, and actually knew it wasn't an eternal contract for me. I didn't want to be a major procrastinator for the rest of my life. And so I started working on it, and it actually started taking less energy in my life, my relationship to procrastination. So what do you think you have an eternal contract in that you feel there's no end in sight? And maybe some things you didn't even realize you had an eternal contract with. That you can go, oh, actually this thing I'm actually not committed for life. I'm actually not in an eternal contract with this thing, but I'm living as if I am. I'm just pausing, so maybe if you're thinking of something in your life that has been running and happening for so long, and it's actually not something that you want to have a presence in your life for the rest of your life. You're actually committed to it taking up less space and time in your life. You're actually committed to that habit, that behavioral habit or relational habit, or psychological or spiritual habit. You're actually committed to it stopping, to it dissipating, to it coming to an end, so that you actually can live life without it. I think it's also a great idea to look at the things that are an eternal contract for you, that you actually are going to keep them going, as you're actually committed to them being an eternal contract, right? Like your level of organization. It might not be exactly where you want it, but you're committed that you're cool with the way the organization is going to go. You're not going to put a whole lot of time into shifting and changing your level of organization and your relationship to your environment. So you're actually okay with where that's at, and that being an eternal contract. There's certain things in your life that actually bring you joy and happiness, and they're very functional, and they work, and they're super healthy, and they bring you lots of love, and certain relationships, your children, your partner, your job. There's certain things in your life that you have an eternal contract with them, and you want them to stay in your life for the rest of your life. You're committed to life for certain things, whether they're really great right now or they're not really great right now. You're like, thanks, Cheryl, I'm not going to work on any of those. They're going to stay the way they are for the rest of my life. And then there's certain things that you may not have realized, unless I put energy to this thing, it is going to stay that way and potentially take up bigger space in my life for the rest of my life. So what are the eternal contracts that you're happy to keep? What are the eternal contracts that you're not so happy to keep, but you're going to keep them? And what are the eternal contracts that you're actually currently putting energy towards breaking, or you plan on putting energy towards breaking certain contracts that you know in your mind, in your body, in your soul, that if you don't put energy towards shifting that eternal contract, then it will stay that way for the rest of your life. and you're just unwilling to have that thing take up space in your life for the rest of your life, whether it's a habit of yours, a behavior of yours, a certain thought pattern, a certain relationship, right? So they could be phenomenons that are happening inside of you, thought patterns, behaviors, belief systems, or something happening external to you, whether it's your environment or your job or a particular relationship. There are also things that you may find you're eternally committed to, like you have an eternal contract with a relationship, a job, a project, a child, but there are certain things in that eternal contract that you're not committed to. So you're in a relationship that you're committed to eternally, and there are certain things in that relationship that you're actually not committed to. That's where the real courageous conversations start to happen. That's where we stop sweeping things under the rug just because we're committed to the form of, for example, the relationship, but there's things in that relationship that you're not committed to and that are not working for you. So oftentimes, particularly for those of us who identify as codependent, we will repress our communication because we're eternally committed to something and we don't want to lose that eternal commitment. We don't want to be abandoned, so we won't speak up. We won't generate the courage to actually strengthen the eternal contract by talking about the things within that contract that don't work for us. I hope that's clear. And what I mean by that is generating the courageous conversations to actually make things better, make things stronger, and expose your vulnerability. And the list goes on. So the major suggestion here is to release, identify and release all of the eternal contracts that you have that you just don't want. You don't want them to be lifelong eternal contracts anymore. So that what is taking up space in your life is everything and only the things that are actually an eternal contract. You're committed to your growth, you're committed to your healing, you're committed to your studies, you're committed to your relationship, to your family, you're committed to increasing your own self-worth and self-value, you're increasing your own consistent inner peace. Maybe you're committed to buying yourself a new outfit every month. Whatever it is that you are eternally committed to, that your life is filled simply and only with what you are consciously, eternally committed to. All right, everybody, thanks so much for listening to my thoughts, theories, and rants. There's still time to join the Conscious Codependence series. It's a free online series that I have about listening. It's called Transform the Way That You Listen and Be Who You're Designed to Be. I interviewed 10 experts, 10 behavioral experts, all about the phenomenon of listening and how potentially all of our unhealed trauma can be found in the filters through which we listen. So go ahead and sign up for the series. We're doing an extended replay next week for Mental Health Awareness Week. The link is down below. Happy healing, and life is now. Bye.